So in this video here, I'm going to be talking about my 5 different sources of income and how I was able to build up 5 sources of income by the age of 23 years old. Mostly because I don't think this is very common. I think most people in their 20s, even into their 30s, have one source of income, and that is the income from their job. And then maybe in their 40s or their 50s, hopefully sooner. But the unfortunate reality is that most people wait until that age to begin exploring different sources of income, and that is primarily when people begin to explore earning income through investments. But I really didn't follow the traditional model. I did up until a certain point, and then I said, you know what, I don't like this old model for a number of different reasons. And I started following my own model with making money and building my business. And so I want to share with you guys exactly what my sources of income are, when I began making them, and basically the timeline here of starting off as being somebody with one source of income and moving up to having 5 different sources of income. Okay, so first of all, we're going to start back in April of 2015. That is around when I graduated college. I just turned 20 years old, and I got my first source of income. That was my first full-time job. And I had just that one source of income for a while. Now, I did save a lot of the money. I've always been a relatively frugal person, so I saved a lot of money, but I was relying on that one source of income, which was the income from my job at the time. Now, that is when I read a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, very popular book. If you guys have not heard of this book before, get a copy, check the library, maybe you can find it online. But I'm going to link it up down in the description below if you guys want to grab a copy of this book. But that is when I learned about working for your money versus letting your money work for you. And I said, you know what, I want to allow my money to work for me. And that is when I decided to have a second source of income. That is when I made my first investment of $5,000 into the stock market. Now, at the time, I actually invested in mutual funds because I hadn't really learned about what mutual funds even were, the expenses you were paying, the management fees. And so down the road, I eventually totally took the money out of that mutual fund and, invested it myself. But that is what I did at the time. This was in August of 2015. I opened up a mutual fund with $5,000. And at that point, I became somebody who had 2 sources of income. And if you guys are familiar with Robert Kiyosaki, I'm sure you've seen the cash flow quadrants as far as being, an employee, a business owner, self-employed, or an investor. So that was when I was both an employee and an investor. And this was a very crucial moment for myself because I had finally had 2 sources of income. Now, was my source of income much? Not at all. I wasn't making very much at all from my investments. Of an investment of $5,000, I was probably making a couple dollars a month, if that. But I had become somebody with 2 sources of income, even though that source of income was very minor at the time. Now, after that, that is when I read a book called Click Millionaires, another book I'm going to link up down in the description below. And this was all about how people were making money online. All these people who became millionaires with the internet, with a computer just like this. And I just became so fixated on this idea. I said, you know what? If all of these people have done it, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to hopefully one day become a millionaire online. I'm in the process of doing that. But I said I'm going to do that too. And that is when I decided to start my side hustle. This was October of 2016, and my side hustle was a YouTube channel where I was teaching other people about, at the time I was talking about fitness, I was talking about the stock market, and I was talking about personal development. I was trying to cover all these different topics at once. Eventually I narrowed down to just, personal finance and investing. But at the time I was trying to cover all these different topics. But October of 2016 is when I started my YouTube channel, and I was very aggressive with this side hustle. I was working on it for probably 20 or 30 hours a week on top of having my 40-hour-a-week job. But at that point in time, I had 3 sources of income. Now, were these huge sources of income? Absolutely not. My job was paying for the bills. All of my investments, any returns I was making, dividends, those were reinvested back into my investments. And then third of all, my side hustle, I was making like a couple dollars a month. The very first month on YouTube, I think I made about $3. So it was not a lot of money, but it was 3 sources of income at the time, and these were income sources that had the potential to grow. So moving on from that, in June of 2017, I went from having 3 sources of income to just 2 sources of income. I got rid of my job. I got rid of my primary source of income, which was crazy at the time, but I wanted to go all in with my side hustle, my YouTube channel, and that became my full-time gig. So in June of 2017, I had just 2 sources of income, which were my investments, which I was obviously not living off of or touching, and my side hustle. So really I had just 1 source of income that I was living off of. Now I stayed with those 2 sources of income for a while until I realized that there was a ceiling to how much money I could earn with having a YouTube channel. There's only so many videos that you can make. I was churning out content every single day, but my earnings were pretty much stagnant. And I realized, all right, I got to figure out another source of income from this YouTube channel. And that is when I discovered digital products and basically having an online course. So that is when I decided to build an online course, sell my own online course, and in August of 2017 I launched my course, and that is when, again, I moved on to having 3 sources of income. Number 1 being my investments, number 2 my YouTube channel, and then number 3 the revenue coming from the sale of my digital products. So August of 2017 I was back to having 3 sources of income. Now after that, I didn't change my income sources for over a year up until June of 2018. I had just these 3 sources of income. I made a purchase. I purchased an Instagram account called Investing Simple, and this also came with a blog. So I consider this to be its own source of income. I basically lump the blog and I lump the Instagram account together into one category. And this is now a 4th income source that really has nothing to do with the other 3, other than the fact that it's related to investing. What I like about Investing Simple is that it's a totally different platform. So if I woke up tomorrow and my YouTube channel vanished, or all of a sudden nobody was watching my videos, I would just jump over and go full-time with this blog, and I would go full-time with the Instagram account. And if you guys want to follow me on that Instagram account, it's down below, and the blog is just investingsimple.blog. I would love to have you guys check it out. There's a lot of good resources over there. But anyways, that was my 4th source of income. And then in July, 1 month later, that is when I figured out what my 5th source of income would be, and that was affiliate commission. Affiliate commission from my blog and also from YouTube videos that I've done reviewing investing accounts out there. Now, I did make a small amount of affiliate commission in the past from Amazon affiliate links, but it was such a small amount of money that I didn't really count it as a major income source. But that was my 5th source of income there when I decided to explore the avenue of making money through affiliate links and affiliate marketing, and that was as recently as July of 2018. And I am proud to say now that other than the investing side, all of these other income sources are making me over $1,000 a month, some of them over $10,000 per month, but the investing is more of a long-term thing there, and obviously I'm not living off of or drawing from those accounts. I'm putting money into those accounts, and down the road that's going to be the money that I live off of, earning enough passive income from your money that you really don't have to do much every day. That's kind of the goal. But all these other income sources are $1,000 a month or more, some of them over $10,000 per month. But there are 3 key lessons that I want you guys to take away from this. Sure, it's cool, I guess, that I have 5 sources of income, but at the end of the day, who really gives a shit about me and what I'm doing? All that matters is what you're doing. Are you still relying on 1 source of income? Are you still relying on maybe 2 sources of income? You really have to start looking at this and deciding, is this something I want to do myself? The first point I want to make here is that the average millionaire has 7 sources of income. They are not relying on 1 source of income. And if you are relying on 1 source of income, which is your job, if you lost your job tomorrow, all of a sudden you're making no money. And so I would not recommend relying on 1 source of income. It's not like it used to be for your parents where, you would get a job and you'd work that job for 30 or 40 years. Nowadays, people are changing careers all the time. People are getting laid off. There aren't really as many unions. And so there aren't as many of these jobs that are secure. And when you look at these people out there that are relying on 1 source of income from their job, that is more risk than I would be willing to take. So just remember, the average millionaire has 7 sources of income. The second thing I want to point out here is that each one of these sources of income, I built them one at a time. So People hear this, that the average millionaire has 7 sources of income, and then they automatically think, I need 7 sources of income, and they try building all of these income sources at once, and you can't do that. You have to build each one slowly, build it over time, build a quality source of income, and then move on to the next one. You can't do this all at once. Do not attempt to do that. It's just not going to work out for you. And then the third and final thing I want to mention here is that you're going to need to replace these income sources as needed. There's not many things out there that you can just start making money and it's never going to stop. It's not like a spigot that you just turn it on. You're going to have some income sources dry up entirely, and you're going to have to explore different ways of making money. And there were a number of things that I tried that I actually failed with up until this point. I tried selling merchandise on my channel. That was one example. People weren't really interested in merchandise, and so it was an income source I was trying, but it just didn't work, so I had to try something else. And maybe at some point in time, nobody's going to buy my digital products, or maybe the YouTube revenue dries up. You're just going to have to develop a different source of income. But the main thing that you guys should see here is that I am not relying on any one source of income or any one platform. And if you are somebody who is an entrepreneur, or basically anybody out there, you should be diversified across multiple income streams and not relying on just one. But anyways, guys, those are my 5 sources of income. This is how I was able to build 5 income sources by age 23. I am not special. Literally anybody in the world can do this, so I encourage you guys to try it out. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next one.